You stay on my face. Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Today I am going to be talking about another bad film adaptation of a book. So it should come as no surprise now that I am a huge Tolkien and Lord of the Rings fan. Sorry, thought I saw something on camera. So yeah, I am a huge Tolkien nerd. I love the books, I love the characters, I love The Hobbit, I love Lord of the Rings. I read The Hobbit like every year. These books are just really special to me. So I was super excited for the film adaptation of The Hobbit, and I was supremely let down by that film adaptation. I do not like it. There are certain things that I do enjoy and certain things that I just find completely unforgivable. So let's get into it. I'm going to break it down into what I feel are the top 3 issues that kind of made the franchise completely go downhill. And then I'll kind of get into some things that were particularly egregious to me. So I'm going to say, I think that the top 3 problems that this franchise had was, number 1, bad CGI. Whew, we will talk. Bad additional characters that were completely unnecessary to the story, and bad timing. This series should not have been 3 movies. I think we can all agree this is long, drawn out. There are certain things that are put in to just add time to what should have been a very simple, story. This should have been 1 movie. 2 is a stretch for me, but I would have accepted that. So I will give you a little comparison here. This is The Hobbit. This is The Return of the King. I couldn't find my other ones, but like size comparison here. So this is 1 book of Lord of the Rings. This is The Hobbit. Okay, so it kind of makes sense that this needed its own movie. There are 3 books in this series. This did not need 3 movies. No. So those are kind of the things that really frustrated me. Let's just start off. I have like 3 pages of notes. I am not going to get like this. I could talk about this for like legit an hour and I would still have things to rant about, but I'm planning on, I only watched the first movie, The Hobbit: An Unexpected Journey, which was so annoying. And I wrote like I said, like 3 pages of notes for all the things that I did not like. And I could still talk more. Like I could keep writing more notes about just the things from the first movie, but we will be here all day. So I'm reining myself in as best I can. And here are my notes. So let me just get into, okay, so the beginning starts off, and I will say the beginning intro with Bilbo narrating is way too long. It should have been about 2 seconds to give Ian Holm, who was the original Bilbo from Lord of the Rings, a little cameo. Also, the Frodo cameo didn't bother me, but it should have been just that, kind of show him in the background or show him for a second. But this whole dragging it out of it being the day of the party, which we all know from Lord of the Rings, it just felt like a big nostalgia grab. Like, hey, remember how much you like this much better film? Here's a little bit of that. Like, we're working so hard on nostalgia here. Like, please love us. And I hated it. It's just so long. I just was like, this is the intro of this movie. Also, there's a big exposition dump by Bilbo explaining what happens to Erebor. And that would be the Dwarvish city that Smaug attacked. Not necessary and very weird coming from Bilbo, because he would have heard all of this secondhand, which makes no sense. Why would he be the one telling us all this? It was very odd to have him be the narrator telling us, oh, in the city of Dale and all this, when it would have made much more sense to have Thorin telling it when he's trying to engage Bilbo to be the burglar. So yeah, I just found that very odd, and it didn't really seem to make sense with kind of the flow of the movie. Like, okay, here's establishing thing. Besides the fact that we don't really get all that big old backstory in the book. There's a very minimal, hey, we had this great city, Smaug came. It's mainly told in the Dwarvish song, over the Misty Mountains, over the Misty Mountains cold, dungeons deep, caverns all blah, blah, blah. Like, that's how we're kind of told the whole story. It's not this big, elaborate thing of, Thorin's grandfather and father and it's just not. This is a much simpler book than Lord of the Rings. Like, it's not this very heavy lore that we're going to explore very far. This is a get the treasure from the dragon story, and it's perfect the way it is. So yeah, that was kind of weird. And then once the dwarves came into the picture, I will say, besides the bad CGI, there is extremely poor makeup and costume design in this film. I'm sorry, but when I can see the seam from the bald dwarf, like where the bald cap is on his head, like, that's a problem. And when you contrast that with the amazing work that this same, I believe they used the same like studio or whoever to do the work that did Lord of the Rings, it's like, how can this look so bad? I do not get that at all, but it's really bad. The dwarves are comically bad. They run the gamut of like the handsome one, which, okay, I guess there's two handsome ones. And then the outrageously overdone, long hair, over the top. One of them doesn't even speak English. Like, he just makes these weird grunting, guttural noises. And I guess that's Dwarvish, which I'm a little insulted because I don't think it's Dwarvish. I think we've heard Dwarvish before. What's he doing? What is this language? Yeah, that's so annoying. So I did not like the dwarves. The exception being, I do like the actor who plays Thorin, and I did think some of the other ones are just kind of okay. Fili and Kili kind of being, I think it's Kili. I can't remember which one is the real, like, good-looking one, but I guess it's all just depends on what you like. Like, I thought one of them was okay looking, but yeah, I don't get that decision, especially since, let me just, spoiler, this whole thing will be spoilers. Spoilers for all the movies. When I saw that one of the dwarves, Fili and Kili, I don't remember which one, was really good looking, and then Thorin is pretty good looking, and like I said, this is just my opinion, they die. Spoiler, like, they die. So why make them the good looking ones? Like, to make us care more? Like, you know, the shallowness that we have towards these characters is like, oh, well, they're hot. That's going to be really sad when they die. Thorin and company are described, like, Gimli is like a very good representation of a dwarf. Long beard, long hair, you know, not comically long or, you know, done in these elaborate styles. Please stop. It was so dumb. I'm not, like, I don't remember if there's an actual description of Thorin, but anyway, I'm just gonna say it. Thorin is not supposed to be young and hot and like, oh, like, they're all older. Ugh. I don't know. That's just my opinion. Like, I never imagined the dwarves like looking this way. And I get that, like, they could take some creative liberties, but like, hot dwarves, okay. Didn't work for me. Also, like, the cartoon, which I have like a very strange affection for because I grew up with it. Those dwarves actually make sense as dwarves. Like, they're not the best, but I feel like that representation made a lot more sense. So dwarves come and they have their whole little meeting. I hated the singing. I felt like it was very weird. I like the songs in the books, you know, chip the glasses, crack the plates. That's what Bilbo Baggins says. It's like, but it's like they're like tossing plates around and it's like doodly doodly doo. Like, what is this? It was so weird. I was like, it's like river dance, you know, number or something in here with this music. And then what's with the accents? Like, some of them are Scottish, some of them are English. Didn't these dwarves all come from the same place? Like, work with me. So anyway, I just did not enjoy this movie. I saw this movie with my then boyfriend, now my husband, and I was so excited for it, and it's just such a letdown. So then they, you know, of course, Bilbo in the movie is also portrayed as being very indecisive, like all of a sudden just wakes up and is like, an adventure. When in the book it's described as like his Tookish side took over and starts going, hey, I am so-and-so's, you know, great-great-grandson, and I know what's up, and I'm going to do this. I can go on an adventure. I have, you know, this Tookish line that loves to, you know, start stuff. I don't know. Like he was proud of his ancestry and that he was descended from, I think it's like Bolror Took or whatever, and like he was going to go be this adventurer and have this exciting, you know, time with the dwarves, and that he could do that. And like later he totally regrets it and is like, hey, I missed my pocket handkerchief. But they didn't show any of that. Like, they didn't show him, like, suddenly getting really spunky. It's like he wakes up and the dwarves are gone. He's like, oh, I'm going on an adventure, which I like the line, but I think the whole setup was dumb. So now we're going to get into what I said was one of my top 3 things I hate about this movie series. That is the unnecessary character add-ins. Radagast is not in The Hobbit. Radagast has a very short cameo in Lord of the Rings, and I would have loved for him to have been in Lord of the Rings, because I think Radagast is a cool character. But not the way he's portrayed in The Hobbit. Like this mushroom high man who is stuck in the woods, who's kind of half there most of the time, and has rabbits like dragging a sleigh. Somebody should have reminded Peter Jackson about George Lucas and the prequels of Star Wars, because Peter Jackson, George Lucas, this prequel series. Like, that is what happened. Like, he had the same thing where he had made the money, he'd made the series, and then everyone was like, we can't say no to this. We can't say no to this. He's already done it. He's already made all the money. Someone should have said no. No, like, no, he's not going to have rabbits and a sleigh. Like, we need to draw the line somewhere here, Peter. But nobody did, so that's what we get. Radagast, just hanging out in the forest, I believe. He's supposed to be in Mirkwood. Okay, and of course, darkness, because we're going to have a cameo, guys, because if you miss Sauron, don't worry, he's back, or he was there before. Wait, what? That's confusing. So if you're not aware of events happening in The Hobbit, Gandalf is kind of popping in and out a lot in the story, but in this series of movies, we have to show where Gandalf is, what he's doing, who he's having conversations with, to kind of show, I guess, that Sauron was this necromancer that was living in the woods, and that was kind of like how he had started to build up his power. I get that they wanted to add this in because it kind of made sense, I guess. It did actually happen. It's just not featured in the book. Like, we kind of know a little bit about it, but it's very side quest of Gandalf, like super side. Like, we don't really hear much about it. The main focus is always the dwarves, always Bilbo, and always the dragon. And that's what we get so little of in this movie. It's by the time we get to the trolls and something that actually happens in the book, it's been like an hour, which, like, okay. Unexpected party. The second chapter of the book is the chapter with the trolls. What are you doing? And the trolls I actually didn't mind too much. Although if I hear he has worms in his tubes again, that was, yeah, okay. I also felt like, unfortunately, like the CGI not being awful, but how is it not as good as Lord of the Rings? Like, a little bit dirtier looking, a little bit uglier, and not in a good way. Like, okay, I'll wait. You do that. The trolls, like, all we see, of course, in Lord of the Rings are the statues of them, like, menacingly over the hobbits, and it's super cool, like, cameo. And then we see them, and they're, like, lame, and there's snot jokes, and it's gross, and I'm not afraid of them. Like, the Uruk-hai in Lord of the Rings are friggin' scary. There's nothing scary in this trilogy. Like, nothing. I like Smaug, okay, we'll get to that. With my, I'm gonna have to, this is not gonna be one video. But the trolls and goblins are almost horrifically bad. And, oh wait, I forgot about my least favorite little added character, the pale orc. No. There is no pale orc in The Hobbit. There is no orc chasing them. If you have been turned off to reading this wonderful book because you saw the stupid pale orc action happening in the movie, I'm sad for you, because that's not a plot point. I believe I can't remember if it's grandfather or father, but one of Thorin's relations was killed by an orc, and they didn't end up retaking over Moria. I believe that was part of the plan. But he doesn't have like this nemesis from that battle. The other one, I think it's his father, was in the dungeons of the Necromancer, and that's where Gandalf found him. He had basically lost his mind. He ended up dying there. It's sad, but it's very, it's a second in the book of like Gandalf explaining and Thorin going, oh, we'll deal with the necromancer next. And Gandalf going, he's beyond you, pal. Sit down. I'll take care of this. Like, there's no pale orc, and I hated it, and the CGI is terrible. Terrible. Like, the Goblin King is the worst, like, the most egregious, monstrous, like, use of CGI ever, and I hate it. I hate it so bad. But I was so mad about the pale orc. I'm like, who is this? Who? Like, okay, I get that you can throw in Galadriel over here and Elrond over here, and like, oh, I guess they could have been there, and Saruman, but there ain't no pale orc. So that's just, it's so frustrating as someone who just loves this series, like this book in particular, so much. And to see it just taken and made into these big, bloated, over-the-top, video game-ish movies, it hurts me. It hurts me in my soul. Like, right there. Let me just double check my notes. Okay. I quickly try and get through some, I know I've been going way too long. So they have the incident with the trolls. They're being hunted. They meet up with Radagast, who's like, oh, hey, here's this sword, because, okay. All these different things. Radagast's whole little side quest to the castle is super obnoxious. None of this was necessary. This movie is too long. The whole thing with how they get to Rivendell, also not like a thing. Like, that's not, Rivendell is like known as one of the places you kind of stop when you're going this particular route. So I believe that in the book they were always planning on going there, even if it was a last minute thing. Like, Thorin is not dumb. Thorin's not like about to start stuff with Elrond. Like, Thorin is pretty crafty and clever in even his a little bit like manipulative stuff. I feel like at the end, especially with Bilbo, like there's some stuff that happens, but I don't feel like Thorin is stupid. And they make him seem like he's one, little insult away from like, I'm gonna, cut your head off. Like, I didn't like that about him. Like, he seems to just be kind of a jerk. And I didn't feel like he really was that. I feel like he's a dwarf. Here's the other thing about dwarves. Dwarves like treasure. They like gold and jewels, and Gimli even, when he's in Moria and seeing these beautiful things. It's like, that's where the heart of the dwarf is. And it's not really presented in Tolkien world as bad or good. It just is. There are people who can let their greed, take them over, and they can be consumed by it. And that can, of course, is a negative. But that's not all dwarves. But at the heart of all dwarves is this love of these jewels and gold and precious things. And that's why they are, craftsmen. And I just think that it was taken into this really weird, like, I don't know, what was their message? Like, don't be materialistic. I don't know. It was stupid. So, so they get to Elrond, of course. Then they sneak out. What? That's not in the book. Then they have the whole goblin troll fiasco. So they're in the goblin lair, and of course, like, the king of the goblin, I would scratch my eyes out if I could. Like, that was so bad. I hate that guy. He's not scary. He's gross. And like in the movie for children, there's a scene with the Goblin King where he's walking towards Thorin, about to bite his head off, and it scared the heck out of me as a kid. I'm like, he's gonna bite his head off. And of course he doesn't. But it's like, that's scary. It's menacing. This guy's like gross and like singy and weird and over the top. Ugh, so dumb. Also, Bilbo being separated from them, that actually happens earlier in the movie adaptation. He's separated right at the beginning. In the book, he's separated as they're actually trying to run away from the goblins, and there's the whole Gollum. I get that they wanted it all to wrap up nicely with them leaving together, so that's why they did it. Didn't bother me that much. I like Andy Serkis as Gollum. I mean, I can't fault him. Neither can I fault Ian McKellen as Gandalf, because he's perfection. And I actually don't mind Martin Freeman as Bilbo, or the actor, I don't remember his name, who plays Thorin. There's just a lot of other characters I don't like, and it was just not very well done. So, in the Goblin Lair, of course, we are cheated of what could have been an awesome scene of Gandalf saving them, because in the book, the lights go out and it's dramatic and there's splashes, and all you see is Gandalf's sword going at the Goblin King, and I believe cuts him in like frickin' half which was actually shown better in the cartoon than in the movie because it doesn't happen in the movie because they wanted this big, like, video game sequence of them running on platforms and them collapsing and, like, if you want to see a very video game-ish scene that's done a lot better, watch Lord of the Rings and the scene of them going through Moria, because, like, this is actually lame. I didn't like it. I didn't care. Like, there's no tension. It was just boring and so cartoonish. And, oh my gosh, like, if you love this movie, I'm sorry. I forgot to say that. Like, love what you love. I just don't. So, yeah, they get through this, and then, of course, there's the big standoff with the pale orc and Thorin, and this is not what happens. The goblins from the mountain chase them and end up meeting up with these wargs, and the, dwarves climb the tree, and they're singing a really, like, creepy song about, killing the dwarves and everything. One of my favorite songs from the book. And in the book, Gandalf goes up to the top of the tree. Little does he know the eagles have, like, seen what's going on and are, going to come save them. But he doesn't know that. He's getting ready to do, like, a final blow, deal a final blow to the goblins, and he's going to go out in flames. Like, he's going to hurl himself down into the middle of the horde to kill as many as he can. But luckily for him, the King of the Eagles swoops down and saves him. Well, of course, we get cheated out of that fun moment by the pale orc and the drama, and we have to cement, at the very end, the bond between Thorin and Bilbo in some way that, like, shows, like, their thing. Because later, spoiler, when Thorin dies, that has to be emotional. We have to care. Thorin can't be a jerk the whole movie. We have to be, like, so upset. So Thorin and Bilbo have a moment where Bilbo finds his courage and goes and saves him, and then the eagles come and carry them all away. And I do like the eagles. People say that it's a ex machina, but I don't even care, because freaking eagles, man. Love them. So, why did this movie fail so badly? I do not know. I blame it on a lot of things. I think greed. Yeah, should have learned from the dwarvish kings there, Peter Jackson. It's bad. It was a blatant cash grab, in my opinion, making 3 movies. It's not good. There are things that, I enjoyed seeing, but they were just so few and far between that it just didn't carry me through this movie. I really think this movie should have been, as I said, one book. This movie should have been just one movie. Because at the end, like, we see Smaug's eye, like the big teaser. I'm like, it's not enough, people. It's not enough. So I tried. I will watch the other ones. I have seen, like, I've seen the second one. I actually never even watched the third one because I've been waiting. I'm like, I'm not gonna watch it till I do a video because I hate it so much, and I just can't. But I know I'm gonna try and do one video for the next 2 because I don't want to drag this out into 3 parts. But I might have so much to say because I know that there's some elves to talk about. Yep. So I just want to say, in conclusion, I do feel very let down by this series, and I do hope that at some point they redo it. I think Peter Jackson could have done a really good job. Everything that is so good about Lord of the Rings seems to have been forgotten in this movie, as far as the costumes and the menacing people and things like the orcs. The Uruk-hai are so gross and creepy and scary, and then, like, you get these little weird goblin comical relief. Like, I don't get it. I just don't. The other things that are just so epic and beautiful, even the scenery of New Zealand is so, like, you can't really mess that up, but it doesn't feel the same. It doesn't feel like this is all in the same world. Everything is just so cartoonish, so, like, over the top in a bad way. Like, I don't even know if I mentioned the stone giants, but, like, what the heck? Like, is this a game? Like, and then activate the stone giants. Like, what is that? So, I am sad. I want to love this film. I want to love this trilogy, but I don't. And I am a huge fan, and I will always be a huge fan, and I will continue to read The Hobbit every year until I die, probably. But, I mean, like, this, they did okay. Like, I love all these movies, and this they should have treated with more respect. This book is great. Poor Bilbo. So, those are my thoughts. I would love to hear what you think of this trilogy. If you love it, like, please tell me what I'm missing, because I just don't like it. And I would love to talk more in the comments. Thank you so much for watching and listening to me ramble. I'll talk to you soon. Bye.